Hey, welcome back to Innovate Africa. And as you know, we find all the innovative people who impact lives on the African continent. Now, we've spoken to many businesses, we've spoken to funders, but what about universities and the role that they can play when it comes to educating young people on future skills? Joining you today, an introduction to Dr. Wouter Grevier. Great having you on the show, Wouter.
Thank you very much, Kim.
Absolute pleasure having you here. You've got the Samsung Innovation Lab, which is out at UWC. Just tell us a little bit about this lab and why you exist, the core purpose behind it.
Right. I think the core purpose with this lab is really to look at addressing the challenge of youth unemployment, but looking at this from different perspectives. So we've been testing and we've been allowed the freedom to experiment with different models of addressing the lack of specifically digital skills, software development skills in South Africa, and to come up with innovative new ways of preparing the youth for the reality in the workplace, which is often quite a lot different from the business as usual approach from higher education.
Okay, so what does the future look like then when it comes to training compared, if you juxtapose that with what currently exists?
I think if you are looking at any futurist, any sort of management theorists and so on that are looking into the future, they're telling us that you will have more and more and more uncertainty. We will have more ambiguity. Yet we still quite often preparing students for a future that looks like our own past, that's very well structured, that is neatly segmented into academic, specific academic fields. And I think the reality looks different. The reality is that we need to prepare the youth to be ready to deal with accelerating change, because the most important quote at the moment is probably the pace of change is accelerating. And at the same time, we need to really equip the youth to understand that they are not disempowered by all this change. They just need a different skill set and a very different attitude to be able to address opportunities that are really aplenty within this environment. And they need to have a different skill set, and they need to also have the confidence to apply the skill set, even though there's a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty.
So when we talk about the future of skills, etc., everybody tends to go towards tech. And I think it's important, but tech without a proper mindset is very important as well for identifying challenges, because a lot of people try and fix challenges that sit in their head. But you need to validate that something is a challenge before you go and build anything, because if you don't, it could become quite expensive. So let's talk about how you work with these young people at your Samsung Innovation Lab to try and achieve that.
Right. I think one of the approaches as we took is from the beginning, we very much co-created the whole course itself and the whole program itself with our industry partners. And we try to really be industry-driven and demand-led in the way we are designing this program. We are this year now hosting the program for the 5th year. It's the 5th time that we've completely adapted the course content, but also the way of delivery, and really being led in that process by industry. I think that's the first important point. And secondly, the whole process itself uses principles of design thinking, principles of project-based learning, and really mimicking a workplace environment in terms of the expectations, the pressure, dealing with stress tolerance, building up self-confidence, specifically in the tech space. Imposter syndrome is a very big challenge, especially our students are coming typically from quite tough backgrounds, and you need to be able to give students the skills, not only the tech skills, but also the people skills to deal with all these challenges, and to do that under a lot of external pressure and being in a hyper-competitive environment.
It's about self-belief at the end of the day, because if you don't believe yourself, then you're not going to be able to take those steps that you need. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, and we've mentioned this on the show before, that talent is equally distributed. Yet, universities, VCs, everybody tends to fish in the same pools where people have access, people, have means, etc. But our poorer communities are sometimes left in the lurch, not just in South Africa, globally, quite frankly. So when you look at this innovation lab that you're running, who's it aimed at in terms of upskilling? Do you deal with people who come from less fortunate communities, but they've got the aptitude and the attitude to deliver at the same level as someone who comes from a much richer environment, for example?
Yeah, no, I think absolutely that's really the spirit of this whole program, and also the vision that we've had from the beginning. Is this is not about, I almost want to say, being part of a feeding frenzy at the top end of the academic environment for the top 5% or top 2% of students that are coming from typically, very privileged backgrounds, very high quality mathematics and science training at school, etc. That is not at all what we envision with this program. The purpose of the program is to create new pathways for unemployed youth that are coming from previously disadvantaged backgrounds that would not normally have access to higher education opportunities. And this is a very deliberate decision from our side. It's also what our funders demand in terms of the process impact. And typically our cohorts, we will have about 2/3 of students that will have only a matric qualification. And about 1/3 will come from, they may have studied, but they are typically unable to find work with a particular degree or particular qualification that they've had.
Yeah.
And then we can transition them into having a more sort of demand relevant set of job skills.
Yeah. So here's a challenge for you. I firmly believe that matric shouldn't be a standard anymore. I believe that young people could fall out of grade 11, 10, and teach themselves the skills. They might have the right aptitude and attitude, but maybe they weren't very good at rote learning. I mean, let's be honest. Our education system is not about thinking and trying to, solve problems. A lot of people leave matric not understanding square meterage or even knowing how tax works. So why matric?
Right. That's quite a. It's also a topic that I'm very passionate about, by the way, because I think we and again, I acknowledge there are teachers in schools that are doing absolutely fabulous jobs.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's also some structural inefficiencies in our schools and in the way that we still sort of teach to test.
Yeah.
Versus really ensuring that the skills we impart are really relevant in terms of the industry requirements and just the world out there.
Yeah.
At this stage, it's a very simple answer in terms of why matric, because it's basically a funder requirement, and that's the way that the program has been structured in terms of there's also some national government departments involved to tick the boxes in terms of the current system. But I totally agree with you that we need a new look at what are the entry requirements for these type of programs. Specifically, something like software development. There's a lot of assumptions being made that you need to be a genius at mathematics.
Yeah,
and you need to have a distinction for science, natural science, or something like that. Our experience shows something quite different. We don't really take a hard look at mathematics skills at all in our recruitment process, because of the fact that we believe a lot of schools, unfortunately, the school outcome in terms of mathematics marks and so on is quite often more a reflection of a lack of teacher capacity and capability than it is of student capability.
Right.
And I think we should challenge the model in terms of creating opportunities for young people that did not have the ability to get the highest level of mathematics. But the bottom line is something like software development and creating, I almost want to also call it more than software development. The job of the future is to be a product engineer. That's in effect what you need to be able to do, is you need to create a solution to a problem and use whatever tech is relevant to make that happen.
Yeah.
And those skills are not always reflected just in a mathematics mark. Our experience, we've had young people that went through our program that had 30% for mathematics literacy in matric, that are now working in industry for some of the top companies as software developers.
Oh,
training neural nets, doing AI. And I think that is, for me, those are the stories that you need to tell, number one. And number two, those are the pathways that we need to enable. And however we do that, my firm belief is we cannot not give these young people the opportunity.
It's music to my ears, right? I think it's about spotting the talent. It's about my parents always taught me aptitude and attitude, right? Attitude gets you through the door. Aptitude is what you can learn, and also what you do with what you have learned. And we can go down the matric thing at a later stage. We won't. But I want to talk about the core things that you actually teach. We talk about the tech stacks, etc. So when they come to this Samsung Innovation Lab, what is it that you actually teach them over how long a period?
Okay. I just want to give a quick comment on attitude and aptitude.
Yeah.
The stock standard definition in the textbooks around competency is knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And my opinion is that it's a lovely definition, except for the fact that it's completely wrong. Because it actually, competence means knowledge, skills, attitude, and network. If you are not linked to an ecosystem, and if you're not empowered to play your role within an ecosystem, you're not going to find work. You're not going to be able to build a career in whatever field you want to be in. And I think that's one of the core assumptions that we're making, is young people that are coming from difficult backgrounds, from previously disadvantaged backgrounds. They often don't have an accurate idea what is software development. Firstly, so that's actually where we start. Before we recruit students into our program, part of the recruitment process is we do what we call a technology agnostic hackathon.
Right.
Which plays out over 3 days.
Okay.
And we get a lot of applicants for our program, and we select a group of about 80 to go into this technology agnostic hackathon. Then we are using things like actually the high-level principles of design thinking, the high-level principles of project-based learning, and we are helping these students to get a much better idea what is software development in this process. And then they're actually they're going through effectively in 3 days, a high-level tech-agnostic delivery of the whole program.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. And in that process, we often find they also self-classify very quickly, in the sense that for some young people, they discover, okay, this is not it. I don't want to do this. Sure. Which is for me a good outcome. Okay. If someone understands this is not their passion, great. We use that as part of our selection, a whole bunch of other selection tools. Then we take our students into a combination of 2 short courses that they both accredited at the University of the Western Cape.
Right.
The one deals with the hardcore technology skills. So that is multi-platform software development. It's basically the Microsoft stack, .NET, C#, Azure, and we also teach AWS, Amazon Web Services from a cloud perspective.
Right.
Also got a very firm, clear focus on AI, because students need to understand from the beginning how to embrace and use AI tools correctly in the creation of software, because it can 10x their software development capacity. Okay. The other part of the program is a short course that is basically known as Digital Social Innovation. It's a bit of a catch-all concept, or catch-all phrase rather, that deals with product development.
Right.
It deals with project management, specifically the agile project management that's used in the software dev industry. It deals with some leadership development. It deals with a whole lot of personal development skills. Other things like public speaking. We've got a 6-month program with our students where they need to build up their self-confidence. They need to do public speaking 3 to 4 times a week for 10 months so that they can stand up and they can actually present themselves, because those are the skills that are counting in a professional environment. And we need to almost, if they've got any fear, we need to sensitize them to that, and we need to get them over themselves so that they can. The big mind shift that students need to make is, given the, it's tough out there.
Yeah,
the South African environment, very, very tough. So students are quite often operating from a survivalist mindset.
Yeah.
And you cannot really be successful and thrive in a professional work environment from that mindset. So we need to take them from a survivalist mindset to a well-rounded wellness mindset so that they can actually thrive within a corporate environment, be that in a startup, be that in an entrepreneurial journey, or in a more traditional employment situation.
Now, Wouter, we talk about the Microsoft tech stacks, AWS cloud. Things are changing very quickly.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no clue how to code, right? But I, for example, am busy building a trade portal, but I'm using something like V0 and Replit. We don't even talk about my mathematics mark. All right, my small business finance was a lot better in my honors, but let's not even talk about my mathematics mark. To your last point, how do you inculcate these agent-driven environments? Or is that something that you're looking at to upskill these young people? Because we can get more people into the solutions net if we introduce that.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, we're seeing to a large extent let's call it a democratization of software development skills. And we're also seeing that there's a enormous growth in the type of tools, specifically AI tools and so on, that can enable people to much quicker have a much bigger impact by in the creation of digital tools or digital products and so on. Our approach is very simple. We want to try and make our students as bulletproof as possible within this environment. So we're not seeing any of these AI tools as being a threat to software developer careers. We are firmly of the opinion that a student that understands, number one, what these tools are, what they can and what they cannot do, what the strengths and weaknesses are of each of these tools, and that know how to correctly architect a solution, those are the students that will be successful in industry and in whatever direction they go in. And I think that's our approach. Just another quite an important point is we need to anchor students in reality. So I always get into trouble, so I'll get into trouble again, saying we must be careful in higher education not to confuse university and reality. It's always slightly dangerous thing to do. So we need to have a very firm foot in the reality of what's happening in industry. So over the 10-month period that we we've got our students on these short courses.
Yeah.
We've typically got about 70 guest lecturers that are coming in, ranging from students that were on the program last year and that are now working as junior developers, straight through to some global vice presidents at Microsoft, and Amazon was in, doing lectures with us a week ago. And a couple of times a week, we are exposing students to real excellence, and to real, almost mind-blowing, inspirational role models.
Yeah.
At the same time, we need to help them to understand the sky is the limit, but you can do it. It's possible.
Dr. Wouter Cruier, I really want to thank you. I love this holistic approach that you're taking. And I love the fact that you are fishing in waters that other people don't fish in. Because as I said earlier, talent is equally distributed. So well done to you, Samsung Innovation Lab at UWC. And this is really what Innovate Africa is about. It's about getting you, maybe you're at a university, maybe you want to reach out to Wouter and find out how they go about doing things. It takes all of us to make a difference in the lives of everybody in this country. And together we can build that future. I'll see you on Innovate Africa next week.